A hero who is wronged by the very system he swore to protect. A villain who has such nefarious purposes that the safety and security of our homeland is in jeopardy. The hero is forced to infiltrate a new terrain to understand and decimate the enemy's sinister plans from the inside. Women in the film are an afterthought, existing only to advance exposition and make the hero vulnerable. The hero gets pissed off that some random guys say random things about our soldiers on the border. The hero has to use his weapons, including machetes, knives, axes, pistols, revolvers, and machine guns to make people say Bharat Mata Ki Jai, and of course lines like Ghuske Marenge, surgical strike, and there is a token good Muslim. Vanakkam and welcome to Cinema Express. This is Avinash Ramachandran, and in this video review episode, we are going to discuss director Harish Shankar's film Ustaad Bhagat Singh, starring Pawan Kalyan, Sreeleela, Parthiban, Raashi, Khanna, and a bunch of other actors. Also, this review will contain spoilers, so kindly watch it at your own discretion. Make no mistake, it is the season of political films and propaganda is in the air. But let's leave it aside for the moment. Let's try to look at Ustaad Bhagat Singh as a film centered on a hero who is just a demigod and not a politician with particular ideologies and leanings. Let's try. Ustaad Bhagat Singh opens with a father figure-like character played by K.S. Ravikumar. He takes a young orphan into his wings. This boy, who has been brought up in the forest, much like Bhimla Nayak, is a straight-shooting youngster who believes that righteousness in the world, taught to him by the stories he heard, the books he read, and the conscience that keeps him on his toes. Also, he loves Bhagat Singh and in many ways names himself as the titular character. Any similarities to a man alive and kicking it as the deputy CM of Andhra Pradesh are a manufactured coincidence. But let's get back to the film. Let's try. A random shootout at a family wedding and a couple of other assassination attempts make the villain, played by Parthiban, the CM of the state, and other past events have put him directly at loggerheads with our Bhagat Singh. So now, the film isn't interested in telling things in a linear fashion, and rightly so. Because if it is linear, how would you crisscross from the past and the present and back, leaving enough moments to elevate the actor? Of course, just like any commercial entertainer worth its salt, the elevations are relegated mostly to the character and not the actor. That is why even when Nagappa becomes the CM of the state, there is nothing he can do to Bhagat Singh. But the film takes too long to reach the central conflict, and we are left to witness juvenile attempts to fill scenes that drag on. It is unfortunate that Raashi Khanna finds herself at the center of these proceedings. She exists only because Ustaad Bhagat Singh can dismiss the idea of therapy and give his own mumbo jumbo to her and get her out of depression. Also, they can throw in a distasteful homophobic joke, which Ustaad Bhagat Singh thankfully glosses past and doesn't allow the scene to dwell too much on this, but the damage is already done. The same holds good for the entire stretch where the makers try to establish that Bhagat Singh cannot dance. While this should have worked much better, especially for the choice of songs employed in this sequence, it doesn't quite land well because there is very little thought that has been given to this writing. This is a constant problem in the film because it is not clear whether the film should serve the character or the star. This dilemma is seen throughout the film, and why it acts as redundant is because the film conveniently forgets that star elevations and political elevations don't often make a movie. Why is there a random scene featuring random people in a cafe out of nowhere being dismissed as soldiers? While the sentiment of the response makes sense, the scene has no place in this film. But so do a lot more scenes that exist only to have Pawan Kalyan shout his political allegiance through Bhagat Singh. Now, there's a group of bad Muslims who do the bidding of Nagappa and are providing asylum to a board of terrorists. Now, an Indian cop saving the country from cross-border terrorism isn't new. We have seen variations of it for years, and it is not going to stop because one can't deny the fact that cross-border terrorism exists. One can't call it fear-mongering simply because there is a precedent for this fear, and filmmakers are cashing in on this trend to tell stories that ignite a sense of passion for the country. But many filmmakers forget the golden rule: intent can only take you so much. The film has to stay on its own ground, and that is where films like Ustaad Bhagat Singh fall. This film is confused because it's unsure what to do with the fun-loving elements that makers have decided to sprinkle generously into a narrative that talks about terrorism, infiltration, religious victimhood, red tapeism, bureaucratic corruption, political agendas, and of course, nationalism. Now, being nationalistic isn't wrong, but using it as a smokescreen to cover up fundamental cinematic flaws needs to be called out. Why have the Toli Prema and Kushi references overstay its welcome? References are fun when they are minimal and sparse, not when an entire song is reproduced and it doesn't do justice to the characters because their ideas are so banal and juvenile. Why would you taunt a dreaded mass murderer on the radio? Why would you not kill a man with the potential to wipe out your entire family just because you want to prove a point? Are we still in the 1980s or are we? The thing is, when you have an almost invincible hero who, despite the various setbacks, doesn't really see them as one, the film crumbles down like a house of cards. The mismatched voice notwithstanding, Parthiban's Nagappa is a poorly written and performed character that feels super uninteresting. In fact, Parthiban, who has played Prakash Raj's role in the Tamil remake of Temper, gets a very similar character but isn't half as good as in this film. Also, let's address the elephant in the room. While the makers said that Ustad Bhagat Singh isn't a remake of Teri, it is both true and false. Most of the good things of Teri have been left behind, and we are left with a couple of scenes that are straight out of the Atlee Vijay film. See, Pawan Kalyan isn't new to taking up remakes and changing it beyond recognition. We have seen it in the remakes of Pink and Ayappanum Koshiyum. It is no different here, but Harish Shankar does bring in a certain interesting choices in the narrative. Instead of following it as is, some of the changes are actually good because Harish allows himself to play around with the persona of Pawan Kalyan, the star, and not the politician. In fact, these portions work in favor of Ustad Bhagat Singh, and this includes the scenes involving Sreeleela's Leela and Bhagat Singh. Harish even brings in an interesting way to recall the inciting incident in Teri. Here too, there is a brutal sexual assault and a dialogue where the woman calls the hero Anna and he goes on a vindictive spree. But the way these scenes are placed in the narrative is actually impressive. But just like most things in Ustad Bhagat Singh, this happy feeling doesn't stay for too long simply because of the portrayal of the harassment is shoddily captured and insensitive. Also, Ustad Bhagat Singh does a much better job about the importance of parenting and what the children should learn from their parents. It was a neat touch and a lovely way of portraying the same, but again, this is soon derailed by the climactic act that brings in national security issues and lines like the new ammunition is population, which might seem as just a cross-terrorism plot, but considering the way Muslims are portrayed in the film and how Muslim-heavy areas are stereotyped, hoping for nuance might be the funniest thing in Ustad Bhagat Singh. In between all this, Harish ensures he presents Pawan in the best of looks, allows him to have fun, shake a leg or two, mouth punch dialogues that are cinematic and not just an extension of his political speeches, and look $1,000,000. It also makes you realize that between all the jingoism and allusions to his political persona, there lies a film that Harish and even probably Pawan truly wanted to make. A quintessential mass masala film that seems to always bring the best out of both these people. But instead, we're left with a film that could have been localized, a film that could have been a decent remake of Teri, a film that could have used the vintage Pawan Kalyan in a more wholesome way, and a film that reminds the world that the biggest propaganda in Indian cinema has always been that our superstars can do no wrong and are common to the audience irrespective of caste, color, creed, and whatnot. And when that mask is slowly coming off, it makes you wonder about a lot of things. A lot. That's it from this video review episode. Do like, share, and subscribe to Cinema Express and let us know what you thought of the film and this review. And until we meet in the next episode, this is your friendly neighborhood critic, Avinash Ramachandran, signing off. Tata!